Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show, we're going to be checking out this from HPI Racing, the just released Sport 3 BMW 2002 Turbo. And yeah, this is definitely one for the vintage BMW fans. So what we're going to do in this episode, we're going to unbox it, take a look at it, go over all its features and functions, and then we're going to take it for a bit of a spin.
Fatality.
16. Uh-oh, I broke it. As I'm interested to see how it drives. So if that interests you, well, you better stay tuned. So let's check out this latest offering from HPI Racing, a BMW 2002 Turbo 1/10 RTR. Now HPI's box designs are very attractive. I love what they do with their orange from their logo, and it's just very appealing. Now there's two versions of this kit available. There's a brushed version and a brushless version. We'll go into more details of what you can get from them a bit later on in the video. Now this is a chassis that we've seen before. This is the four-wheel drive Sport 3. Now it's 470mm long, 200mm wide, and it has a wheelbase of 254mm. Which is handy. Now this RTR comes with oil-filled shocks and adjustable collars. Now being four-wheel drive, it has a center prop shaft. One thing I really like about this is it's totally sealed from the elements, so maintenance is going to be a little bit lower. One thing I'm very surprised to see in here is we have metal gears throughout. Now that's a bit of a surprise for a road car with a body like this, as I couldn't imagine it lasting very long if you're blasting it with tons of power. But I guess when we take it for a drive, we're going to see just how fast it is. Now this is a pre-production version, so I'm missing the kit battery that you'll get. Also the charger that comes in it, I don't have one of those either. But obviously I have NIH batteries as well as 2S and 3S lipos, so the performance that you're going to see in this video is going to be the same as the one that you're going to get. So the first thing you're greeted with is the manual, and I'm happy to report that the manual that comes with this, not in color, but has everything you need, a full blown out diagram and instructions on how to troubleshoot it. So you've got everything you need if you break it when you crash it into something, that you can get your spanners out. Right, the next thing we have is the transmitter. Now this car comes with a TF-51 transmitter. It's a 4-channel, and the receiver that comes with it is an RF-51. Now one thing I really liked about this one, being that normally they're kind of quite hard plastic, is it has a soft grip. So it definitely feels a little bit more premium. Also, it has all the dials that you've come to expect. You know, you can set your steering trim, your throttle trim, and you've got different buttons for your channels, which is for the lights that are installed on this. But the grip makes such a big difference. Also, there's these little rubber bits on the edges, like bumps, so it just feels a little bit more premium than you normally see in an RTR. Being that the transmitter is all about being tactile, I've never quite understood why manufacturers skimp to the point of removing foam around the steering wheels and soft touch grips, as it gives a real negative feel of the product. But that's enough of all the peripherals. Let's take a look at the car itself. And I must admit, I love what they've done with this body. It is gorgeous, and it's right up my street, as I like a lot of detail on the bodies. Now making a body like this is a real challenge in polycarbonate, as the way the actual bodies are formed, having the front that comes inwards underneath is a real challenge. Could you imagine if you did that at the front and the rear, where it rounds off like you can see here? You'd never get it out the mold. So what they've done is they've made this in two parts. They've kept the whole front, and then they've made a separate section that goes on the rear. Now it's a bit disappointing to see it wasn't stuck down over the arches. I could see that being a bit of a problem further down the line. So that's my first recommendation. If you buy this, definitely want to address that and get that fixed down before you drive it. Loved the way they did the grille. Now one challenge that I've seen on other versions of this kind of car is that the headlights stick out. So if you have stickers, then the stickers don't really work, as they are at the same angle as the grille. Also, you get beautiful wing mirrors that I'm pretty sure are not going to last very long, but I love the detail that they've gone to. And the body just looks stunning. The whole rear section with the chrome bumper, the little tiny spoiler, and the way the lights stick out, the detail is lovely. Now there is things we could improve on this body, and the big glaring one is it has body post, which is a real shame on a body like this. a clipless body would have been really nice to see, and hopefully that's something that's HPI are going to move towards in the future as it's becoming more standard these days. Now, one thing they have done which I really liked is this flexible cable that connects all the LEDs for the body to the actual electronics of the chassis. It makes it so much easier to lift the body off, then disconnect it. Definitely a thumbs up for that one. The little junction box has an additional set of lights available to it, so you could add some extra lights. I did notice that on the rear of the car there's extra spaces for what look like indicators, but there's nothing at the front, so I'm guessing you could kind of add a set of rear hazards, but the front lights are just stickers on the indicators. One thing I wasn't overly sold on was the material that they'd used to stick down the cables. It was just like a bit of sellotape, and I'm sure if this gets wet it's going to fall off, as it'd start to come away in one or two places already. So I definitely address this before you take it out, especially if it's going to be damp, as you don't want any of this cabling falling inside the car. And this leads me on to my next one, painting the body up in white and then not backing it. So from the outside, it's lovely to see that we've got clear windows and not just stickers. That's definitely a step up. But as you can see, it shows the whole inside of the car through the windows. Now, normally what I would do with this is then back it in silver, then back it in black. And instead of having sticker windows, you actually use PS smoke and smoke the windows, so you get a better overall look that doesn't have that wavy clear sticker look. Another thing that makes this worse is they've embossed HPI in the rear window, and then when you put a window decal over it, it's got air trapped inside it because it's embossed. So that was not really thought out, and it kind of is a bit of a shame, but this can be fixed if you decide to go back and upgrade the windows yourself. Now, you might be a little bit disappointed that it's only got a set of headlights and a set of tail lights and brake lights, but don't be. I love the yellowy colour that they've gone for, and it really does bring out the detail, especially in the rear lights. It makes it look gorgeous. I think they've got this really well. The plastics that they've used does look old. It's not high bright LEDs, and it just adds that extra decal. Granted, yes, I would love to have seen indicators as well, but you can't have everything. One thing's for sure, you've definitely got a stunning body to start with, so if you wanted to add more detail, you definitely can. So I think that pretty much covers all the body aspects. So let's turn our attentions to the chassis. Now, this has a 254mm wheelbase chassis with a 200mm width. That means you do have some options if you decided to go down a different route for a body. This here is a killer body that does actually fit. It's fractionally wider. Here's a Tamiya one that you could make work if you wanted to. So there is some options available, as well as obviously HPI Racing have their own list of bodies, so you could change them out if you wanted to have a running body, for instance, and then you wanted to have a shelf body. Now, the whole driveline is totally enclosed, so to get access to the prop shaft, you actually go in from underneath the chassis. Now, I wanted to take a good look at this, so I actually removed the cover. Wasn't as easy as I thought. I was trying to prise it without damaging the chassis or scratching it, but I managed to do it in the end, and it was worth a look. It was good to see there was lots of lube protecting all those alloy gears that you get in this. Now, I'm kind of surprised that this has been upgraded to alloy gears when other versions of this come with plastic. Being that this body is quite fragile, and you would normally assume that having a chassis full of alloy gears is so that it's going to be more rugged and take more power, but that's what you get. Now, removing the prop shaft's not totally easy, as the bridge for the steering does go across. As for the shocks, well, they are plastic, but you do have adjustable collars and obviously with oil, so you can adjust the oil thickness if you want a harder or softer ride. You can upgrade these to alloy ones. HPI do sell upgrades for this chassis, as this chassis has been out for a while and is on other kits, so you do have some options available. You can actually get a carbon bottom prop shaft cover. I'm not quite sure why, but you can anyway. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the plastics. It doesn't feel cheap and cheerful. One aspect that I wasn't too sold on was there's no adjustable turnbuckles. It's all fixed, so you can't adjust your toe in or toe out. While I was checking that, I did notice that there is quite a lot of play in the top turnbuckle, as it's just going from ball cup to ball cup. There's no kind of sideways stiffening, so there is a bit of play. Now if you bump into something, it's going to flex reasonably well, so that's good, I assume. But as you're driving it, especially if it's got a lot of power, you're going to get a bit of movement, as the camber, toe and caster are all going to be moving around a bit. As for the wheels and tyres, well, they're the same on the front and rear. I do like the retro styling to them, and they are the same offset. Tyres are lovely and soft. They did feel quite good, so they should grip really well on the tarmac. Now HPI offer this in brushed or brushless. The entry brushed version is a 15-turn Firebolt motor, and the ESC is a 60 amp SC-35 WP2. That runs 2S or NIMH. The upgraded version, which is the one you see here, has a 4000 kV flux brushless motor, an 80 amp 2 and 3S LiPo flux ESC, which is EMH-3S. Now the receiver is inside a protective box, but I don't think this is waterproof. There's no rubber gaskets around the seals, as you can see here, and wires enter from the bottom. Now the servo apparently is water resistant, so don't go submerging this car in water at all, but a little bit of damp wet is not really going to be an issue. The battery tray is huge, so you have no issues whatsoever fitting 3S hard case or 2S or the NIMH. As for the servo that comes included in this car, it's a HPI SD-07WR. Now this is a 25 tooth servo, runs from 4.8 to 6 volts, and the best you're going to see out of it is 0.16 seconds at 60 degrees. Has a 7 kg torque. Now I was kind of concerned, as when I started looking at this I realized it wasn't centering back as well as I'd like. Now as of this video I haven't driven it yet, so that's something I want to look at, is when I return back to the middle, is it actually driving straight, or is it one of those ones where you're constantly trying to correct to drive in a straight line. But as you can see here, I run tests with it on the ground and off the ground, and when it's off the ground it centers okay, but when it's on the ground it doesn't, which means the resistance is stronger than the servo wanting to return to its zero center position. We'll just have to see when we take it for a spin. Okay, so let's put this through its paces. Now luckily outside the road was closed, so there was no cars. 28. So that made me break my first rule. Driving fast cars around with pavements never ends well. Anyway, so what do we want to find out? We want to see, well, it's quick enough? Does it handle okay? Is it twitchy? What are the tyres like? What's the overall speed like? And how does it handle? And how much fun is it? Well, being that it's four-wheel drive, that really helps on a cold winter's morning on a cold tarmac road. Now, it drives around rather well. It is well mannered. It understeers if you push it, which is kind of better way to go. But I did find when I tried to pin it, I was getting a bit of a wandering, as you can see here, and it kind of kept ruining my speed runs. Now I don't know if it's just the servo that I've got in this car, but I did find it wandered. Now if you're zooming around from left to right and flooring it and sliding it, it doesn't really matter. But when you're trying to go flat out in a dead straight line, yeah, I couldn't do it, couldn't get it, and obviously I was worried about those pavements, and I really wanted to look after this body. Yeah, but as you can see, it slides around really nicely, and I'm pretty sure if you put some drift tyres on this, you could have some fun with it as well, especially if you could modify it to get a bit more steering angle on it. It would be cool to see this drifting around, but it was well mannered. You know, I could slide it nicely there, and you can see this was all controllable. It was only when I was going in a straight line that I did start to have some issues. As for enough power, yes, a 4000 kV motor in a 1/10 like this is more than enough. You're going to have loads of fun with it. I would definitely recommend taking it to a wide open car park, not one with big curbs everywhere. Well, yeah, that's where things started to go a bit sideways. 16. Uh-oh. I broke it. Uh-oh. Yeah. I seem to have broke it. So there you go, if by magic it's all fixed again. Yep, no problems at all. Luckily there is a bag in the kit with a few little choice replacement parts, and one of them was the front upright. Now as far as I can see, it's a different angle one, but I changed both sides so it should be okay, and it clears the body all right. So it got me going again, and I could order replacement parts. That's why I don't really like dog bones, because when you crash it and they fly out, you can lose it. Amazingly, I found it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to drive the car again. So upgrading to universals for that reason alone is worth it. Overall, what's my thoughts on it? Well, it's a tricky one, because I always try and think to myself, who is this for? And I think it's a bit Jekyll and Hyde. You have a beautiful body that's done to scale and is gorgeous. Love what they did with the front end. The rear is beautiful. You could put a driver cockpit in it. There's plenty of room. You've got these gorgeous wing mirrors and the details there, and you could really step it up a little bit and add more detail to it. So it would suit someone who was maybe going to go and buy a TT02 Tamiya. Obviously you're not going to get the build experience, but maybe if that's what's putting you off, this body is gorgeous. Someone who is also looking at some of the Kyosho's like the Datsun or the GTO, the Nissan, this is getting to that kind of level. But then the other side of it is you've got a chassis, especially if you go the brushless, that has tons of power. I mean, there's more than enough. It's shredding the tyres on it already, and I don't think if I did that again, I would be buying new tyres. It's spinning up one wheel, so it could kind of do with a bit thicker oil in the diff as well. Otherwise, I'm just burning up tyres. After smashing it up like that, I can say that it's pretty strong. There is a bit of a jagged groove cut into the body, into the chassis, but all in all, after a bit of a clean, it doesn't look too bad. And I'm amazed I've still got wing mirrors. Yep, the wing mirrors for some miraculous reason didn't get ripped off at all, and the body's okay. There's a few scuffs on each corner, but I can kind of live with that. The rims have taken a bit of abuse. They're kind of curved up a little bit, but they're all like that, which is a bit strange. But I think you could definitely upgrade the rims and make something a little bit cool as well, and maybe you could slam it. That would also look really, really good. So it wants to be a basher, and it wants you to throw it around and abuse it, but the body's too pretty to do that. Now, the last time I had a car that kind of fitted that Jekyll and Hyde was the Kyosho USA 1. That was the same. It wants to be a basher, but the body is a little bit fragile. So if you're thinking about getting this and you love the body and you want to look after it, definitely get yourself a basher body, and then you can have the best of both worlds, if that makes any sense. I would always recommend now really get the brushless. The brushless systems are so much better, lower maintenance, and just got so much more punch. Oh, forgot to say, that whole run was on 3S. So yes, you could calm it down a little bit by going for 2S. But I have to say, apart from the servo, I would give it a double thumbs up. I think it's brilliant. I'd love to put a driver cockpit, and maybe I'll bring it back on the show. If you'd like to see it, comment below, where I maybe upgrade this a little bit. Put a driver cockpit in it, maybe change the rims on it, add a little bit more detail. That would be nice. It would be really good if HPI could do away with the old posts and go to a clipless body. That would be a nice step forward. But the electronics in this are crazily powerful. It's just that servo. I don't know whether it's just my servo is a little bit wandery or whether they all are like that. I haven't seen any other reviews yet, so I honestly don't know. So what we'll do is when there's other reviews out, I'll see if anybody else reports the same kind of thing, as it definitely shows up, and you can see I've got a bit of a wobble on all the time, or whether it's just my one. But swapping out to a better servo, it's basically going to cost you, what, $25, $20? It's not that big a deal. And then maybe putting that servo into more of a big basher kind of thing, where you don't need the performance of getting it to be dead true all the time. But on a car like this with the kind of speed that you get out of it, you want it to go flat out in a straight line and not going to crash as much otherwise, especially if you're driving around on a road like me. Anyway, thanks very much. Please like and subscribe, and there's plenty more to come.